So as we consider our history and our future, I think it's important today that we acknowledge Indigenous Peoples Day. This day honors the cultures and histories of the Native American people. So it's an honor to share with our campus community our formal ArtCenter land acknowledgement. Prior to her unfortunate recent passing, Tongva elder, educator, and language keeper Julia Louise Bogani, known as Wise One, reviewed and graciously recognized our land acknowledgement. ArtCenter College of Design is included in the region of the ancestral and traditional land of the Hahamanga Tongva people, who historically inhabited the San Gabriel Valley area around present-day Pasadena, where we're meeting today. As we meet today, wanted to share with you a little bit of our outline. Our outline obviously is to hear from Karen Hofmann, then from our guest speaker, Ivy Ross. I'd also like to remind people that we do have live transcript enabled. So for people who'd prefer to read, the live transcript button is called CC, and it is in the bottom right-hand corner of the tray in your Zoom. So it is a real pleasure for me to introduce Karen Hofmann to you. Of course, many of you know Karen as our extraordinary provost, but many may not be so familiar with her background. Her first major is actually in psychology with an emphasis in industrial psychology. She became a student at ArtCenter in product design, and after graduating, worked extensively as an industrial designer, for example, with Johnson Controls in their advanced design and research. When Karen came back to ArtCenter, it was as a faculty member and then chair in product design. What I know in Karen's work is that she has been instrumental in creating multiple labs, from color, materials and trends, sewing lab, supporting the Immersion Lab, and many others. I think her work merges human-centered design processes, fabrication, materials innovation, but most importantly, she centers the human experience of creative technology and industrial design. It's at the heart of her work and her teaching. Her transdisciplinary approach to collaboration and student experience can also be seen in INSEAD. And I have to say that she has been nominated several times and won the IDSA Educator of the Year Award, as well as Design Intelligence, who remarked that Karen was the most admired educator in her peer group. And with that, I'll pass it over to Karen Hofmann.
Well, thank you, Maggie. What a lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our first ever Creative Tech Week. And my thanks goes out to the team for putting this together at this time when we are still somewhat apart, but coming back to campus. But this conversation around creative technology is one that we've been having for quite a while, and I'm going to share my screen now and just take us through a little bit of what to expect for our time together now, and then also for a little bit of a context into what creative technology means for us here at ArtCenter. So first of all, the team that put this together really had a couple of goals in mind. And the mission was really to convene this conversation with thought leadership from alumni, faculty at ArtCenter, creative experts that are out there, technologists, to come together and have a conversation about how diverse creative technology has gotten, the different pathways. This is not about one discipline. This is about multiple disciplines that are engaging in creative technology. We really want to have this week inspire you as students to understand what those opportunities could be, but also what are the resources that we have here at ArtCenter. We have the most incredible faculty who are also going to share their contributions to the field. And really, hopefully you will see where ArtCenter has been in its history, where we are now, and where we are in the future when it comes to creative technology. So how are we defining creative technology? Really, it is this look of invention and looking at both the artistic and practical purposes. It's really to underline what those systems are that are not limited to, but do include code and computation, electronics, AI, machine learning, extended realities, digital creation, digital communication. And this is not a new conversation for us here at ArtCenter. We've been at the forefront of creative technologies over the last several decades, and I'm going to show just a few examples today. Our photo labs are renowned for advancing technology in both professional practice and continue to be a differentiator for ArtCenter. The zone system was a photographic technique for determining optimal film exposure and development, formulated and worked out by Ansel Adams and Fred Archer at ArtCenter in the late 30s, early 40s. And some of you that are online today might remember the inception of the computer labs at ArtCenter. We were the first design school in the 80s to have spearheaded the revolution in digital design by having labs. We got support from General Motors to establish our 3D modeling labs. And some of us may remember a software called Alias, which was really ArtCenter's inception into 3D modeling world, and actually led the industry in that technology and taken into the studios. In a similar way, in the 90s, we were able to formulate our rapid prototyping labs with 3-axis, 5-axis CNCs, milling machines, laser cutters, which I know a lot of students love using, but really we were one of the first to have this as far as an educational experience. And the incredible film and photo stages include, technology like chroma key, and otherwise known as green screen, which has really advanced, the latest technologies in cameras and in shooting live action and mixing media and digital effects and animation. We're right there in the middle of it all. I did have the pleasure of being part of developing the Color Materials and Trends Exploration Laboratory in 2005 with the generous support of Nokia. This was really a way for us at ArtCenter to consider how material technologies and color choices could and should be part of the innovation process, not just an afterthought. This was also the birthplace of our design storm process, our 3-day sprint process, really exploring future markets, future technologies, et cetera. And then really leaping to the last couple of years around our newer technologies. This is our Immersion Lab, which is really born out of one of our fine arts students, Philip Kotstick, who was obsessed with VR at the time. And really it spread across all disciplines. And now when it comes to spatial computing technologies, AR, VR, MR, wearable technology, we have a place and a space to experiment with that overlap of physical and digital making, immersive media. And we also now have the Hyundai Kia Lab that's sponsored for transportation design to understand what those future experiences can and will be. And then we have the wonderful Hofmanns-Milken Center for Typography, which does represent both a history in archetype press and printing. We also have the ability to think about the future of what that technology is going, what language is being developed based upon our new forms of media. And you'll be hearing a lot from Gloria Kondrup, the director of that lab. So just to flash back a little bit, as Maggie introduced, I was a practitioner at one time before coming back to ArtCenter, and some of you may not remember these things because you're just too young. But 20 years ago, there was a project that I was able to lead regarding what the future of the emotional relationship is between humans and technology, called High Touch. It was inspired by the book John Nesbitt wrote, which was this need for emotional authenticity in our rapidly tech evolving world. So at that time, we welcomed the iPod and the Xbox into the world, which was really making way for entirely new ways of being entertained through music and gaming. And the BlackBerry had a cult following called Crackberries, addicted to thumbing messages with other BlackBerry users. Sony's robotic dog, Aibo, had their own cult followers, forming dynamic emotional relationships with these inanimate objects that felt like a pet. Dance Dance Revolution had brought a new definition to participatory arcade gaming, one that was quite healthy, actually. And American Idol launched the reality TV phenomena with watch parties and crowdsourced competition. And Burning Man, once a fringe annual event, was becoming mainstream and an escape for those craving something uber artistic, sensorial, and enabled by creative technologies. At that time, the questions that we were asking was, what makes these things addictive? What was it about these experiences that triggered emotional responses? How are these technologies shaping human experience and evolving expectations of the relationships people have with technology? And how might this translate into compelling automotive experiences? Flash forward a decade later, as chair of product design and in collaboration with Maggie and the interaction design department, we really began to explore wearables and soft goods. And of course, the topic of high touch continues to evolve, now with emphasis on data and emerging material technologies, and perhaps bettering the human experience and performance. Numerous ArtCenter projects and relationships with Caltech and JPL really helped us evolve the conversation and ask further questions. So today, I think about where we've been and what we're facing with today's technologies and engagements. And, it may not be Burning Man, it's Coachella now, but we're also seeing, the effects of social media and how are we engaging with social media and the political and social implications around it. And while it's not a cute little Aibo dog, it's Boston Dynamics robotic dog. Is this better for us? What does this all mean for us? And the various forms, whether it's TikTok or Twitch, other AR technologies, how is this really evolving our connection with each other? And that's the big question that I have. And high touch really does continue. And it's a great lead into my introduction to Ivy in just a second here, which was interesting enough, with the release of and the opening of their new store in Chelsea, New York, just over the summer. PSFK had this interesting article out of many articles regarding what this high touch experience is for Google at the New York City flagship store.